House Bill 335. Representative Hawkins, when you are ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dale Hawkins, Representative District 2, here this morning with House Bill 335. And I won't belabor this. I believe that it's a simple bill that just broke my glasses. It did break them.
Oh, my.
And so the reading might take longer than 5 minutes. No, I just tease. We'll get through it. This bill makes it illegal for anyone to knowingly, let's key in there, knowingly help, hide, or transport individuals who are in the United States illegally. It also prohibits encouraging and assisting them to live in the state by providing them with housing, financial support, or legal help while they're present in the U.S. Violates federal law. If someone breaks this law, they can face a misdemeanor or a felony, depending on how many individuals are involved. Repeat offenders and those aiding multiple individuals can lose their business license, facing large fines, and have their vehicles seized. Exceptions exist for law enforcement, emergency responders, and first responders acting in their official capacity. What we have here up until this morning, I thought, was a pretty simple bill. What this bill does is it brings us in line with the current administration, and it's seeking to reverse the efforts that have been made on our country over the last 4 years with what has been described as an invasion. Now, we know that the border is pretty closed right now. The current administration has, in their first 6 weeks, reduced the border crossings. I don't even know. I think it's less than a couple hundred a day or less. And it was at 35,000 or more a day. So what we're dealing with now is somewhere in the estimates between 15 and 25 million people in the United States. I don't know what the accurate number is. At the chairman's request, this bill originally had person in it. And there was concern if somebody was offering Christian charity or just charity, fed somebody a meal, gave them a bed to sleep in. We took that out because that is not the intent of this here. The intent of this here is to go after organizations that are intentionally doing these actions. And I've heard today that we need to put a religious exemption in here. I just want everybody to understand. If you have a church and somebody comes into your church, your pew, your parish, and sits down to worship God, that is not you harboring. That's somebody going into a building. You're not asking for ID. I've never been asked for ID to enter a church in my entire life. I've helped at food lines. Nobody's ever asked who the people are in food lines. It will not stop the operation of being charitable to people in general. If you belong to an organization that has practiced enticing and harboring and bringing people into the country against federal law, this will apply to you. There's no way around it. I just would like to assure everyone that this is not going after any individuals who are practicing charity on an individual basis. And with that, I'd be glad to take some questions.
Thank you, Representative Hawkins. Committee, we have a number of people who are here to testify. If you have no objection, I'd like to hold our questions until we get through as many people as possible. And then welcome all questions from the committee. I see no objection. Go ahead. Representative Hawkins, if you'd like to take your seat, you won't be allowed to question, but if you want to take your seat up here while we go through this, that'd be fine. Okay, I'm going to go in order that is on the electronic list I have of your names signed up to testify. First up is Dan Shepard and then Robert Gillis.
Good afternoon, Chairman Skaggs, members of the committee. My name is Dan Shepard. I live in District 10, and I'm here representing the Idaho Tough on Crime. I am going to testify in favor of House Bill 355. This proposed legislation is a necessary and reasonable step to ensure that Idaho upholds the rule of law and maintains public order. Illegal immigration places significant strain on state resources, including healthcare, education, and social services. By prohibiting individuals from knowingly aiding those who are in the country unlawfully, this bill reinforces federal immigration laws and discourages activities that contribute to illegal residency within the state. One of the most important aspects of this bill is its deterrent effect. When individuals or organizations actively assist those who violate immigration laws, they undermine the legal processes that govern entry into the United States. This legislation ensures that those who knowingly provide housing, financial assistance, or transportation to individuals in the country illegally are held accountable for their actions. By imposing penalties, including fines and potential loss of business licenses for repeat offenders, the bill discourages activities that could otherwise facilitate illegal immigration. Additionally, this law includes reasonable exemptions for law enforcement officers, emergency responders, and first responders acting in their official capacities. This ensures that public safety and humanitarian efforts remain intact while preventing abuse of resources meant for legal residents and citizens. Overall,
Wrap up.
this legislation aligns with Idaho's commitment to upholding the law, protecting taxpayer-funded resources, and ensuring that immigration laws are enforced consistently.
Okay, Dan, you have to wrap up. Time's up.
Just one more sentence, Chairman.
All right.
Just one more. It sends a clear message that Idaho will not become a sanctuary for illegal immigration while maintaining appropriate exemptions for essential public safety services. Thank you.
Any questions of the testifier? All right, see none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Robert Gillis, followed by Jeffrey Street. When you're ready.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I won't belabor the point. My background, training, and experience. I'll just give a little personal touch to this
You would
topic.
just tell us your name and where you're from.
Robert Gillis, Idaho Tough on Crime.
Thank you.
I put it in the context that we are a nation of laws. Yes, we do. We have people that immigrate here. We have family and friends that have immigrated here. We understand that, but we still are a nation of laws. And when we have corporations and businesses that are catering to a certain facet of society, illegals that are coming across our border and participating in bringing them here or harboring them is what's in the legislation. It's almost a form of human trafficking. If they're bringing them here illegally or they're protecting them while they're here illegally, it is a form of that. And the other issue is that work in the streets, I'm sure that the deputies back in the back can also testify to if they were to testify. Everybody lies to us on the streets. They don't have ID in their possession. They can give you any name that they come up with at any time. You know who they are. When you have immigrants that are being brought into our state to work for corporations and businesses, they haven't gone through the proper vetting, E-Verify, work visas, the proper pathway to get here to work. We don't know who they are. They could be tied to Mexican drug cartels. If they were trafficked here and they've paid money to get into our country, that's one thing. That's a form of trafficking. If they've brought to the country to do business for a cartel, it's another form of human trafficking. I think that it's the broken window theory. If we don't address the small things and we're worried about keeping Idaho, Idaho, we're going to lose Idaho by not addressing these small things. If you look at our state now with the homeless issue that goes on sometimes around Boise, it's such a small issue compared to many other capitals across our country. If you look at the entire country, Boise is way low as far as problems with crime and drugs and homelessness for a reason. It's because of what you all do in the legislature to try to keep this place safe, what these officers in the back do to keep this place safe. If we don't keep a foot on it and take control and do the broken window theory and handle the small things or what may seem small, we're going to lose control. And if we don't hold these businesses accountable that are bringing people in to work illegally, it's going to be a problem for us in the future. I stand in support of this bill.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions? Representative Hostetler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Mr. Gillis. Good to see you again. I believe it's essential for any nation in maintaining its sovereignty to maintain its rule of law and its borders. Do you believe that applies here in the state of Idaho to maintain a rule of law in our borders for our safety and sovereignty and future?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Hostetler, yes, I do, absolutely. I think that we have to do everything possible to protect our way of life. There's a reason why so many people in this room may not have even been born in Idaho. They brought their families here. I know I did. I brought my kids here for a better life. Again, if you look at this entire country, every state in the country has issues. Idaho's issues are pretty small in the scope of things. We have something special here that's worth fighting for. This is just another facet of that fight.
Thank you for your testimony. Jeffrey Street, followed by Jacob Rourke. When you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairperson, members of the committee. My name is Jeffrey Street. I'm a local attorney. I live in District 16. I'm here on behalf of the Idaho Trial Lawyers Association. We are a volunteer organization of attorneys who represent citizens across the state. We are asking, or here on behalf of ITLA, in opposition to this bill, and chiefly the breadth of the bill based on the language. What we have seen in our review of the bill is that there's really not a limited scope to what the application could be. For example, when we're talking about the promotion or providing of legal support to someone who's designated as an alien, which is discussed on page 2, lines 6 through 10, that could be so broad as to be interpreted if somebody who was deemed an illegal alien to come into a law office and say, hey, how can I come into this country legally? For me to sit there and say, you would need to probably go back and come through the processes that our country requires to make sure that you're a legal citizen. If they say, well, what if I am in an emergency situation? Go to a port of entry and seek a special asylum. Can't provide that advice. That's not limited in this. You'd also notice in this bill that on page 1, lines 14 to 15, the term alien is pretty simple. It's just a non-citizen. That becomes important because when you look at the use of alien throughout the bill, it talks about illegal aliens, inadmissible aliens, and aliens generally. That becomes important when you look at the transportation provisions on page 1, lines 38 through 39, which means you can't transport someone who you may know or have reckless disregard as an alien. And it's just uses the term alien. And what I mean by that is, so if someone has a flight and the connection is in this state, and the person on the flight may be an illegal alien, they may have to reroute, or they could be accused of reckless disregard. That runs into issues with the Dormant Commerce Clause at the federal level, and I certainly don't want to see us before the Supreme Court on that issue.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there questions of the presenter? Do I see a red light somewhere? Because I don't see it. There it is. Representative Garner.
Chairman Skog, and I missed your last name, but
Street.
thank you. So am I understanding your testimony right that line 14 would include, like, if someone came over from France
Mr. Chairperson,
on vacation?
Representative, the only qualification is that they're not a citizen. There's no other limitation. So it doesn't talk about temporary stays or permanency. So if the provision in the bill strictly talks about an alien, it would apply to anybody, even if they're on short term.
Thank you.
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Street, I'm curious, you said you were a lawyer, and so I'm wondering, this bill is talking unlawful for an organization in this state. Are you operating as an organization, or are you operating as an individual?
Mr. Chairperson, Representative, here we're operating I'm on behalf of an organization, but the organizations that are defined in here would be any type of LLP, LLC, any type of law firm. And that's the concerns here is if somebody walked into a law office, even if it was to advise them to enter the country legally, they could not do so in this instance.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Next, is it Nikki Smith. Nikki Smith, followed by Emily Croston. When you're ready.
Nikki Ramirez Smith. I'm from Napa, Idaho, District 23, it appears. So So I'm an immigration lawyer. This bill has very serious concerns for us because we advise people of their immigration rights in the country. This would essentially make all of us felons immediately within one day of my work. I'm not a miracle worker. I don't tell people how to break the law. In fact, I took a bar oath not to. I tell people how to come within the law, how to follow the law, when they need to report, sometimes how big their suitcase needs to be to leave. So our job is to advise people of what their legal rights are within the law. There are a number of statutes and federal case law that mandate certain things, even for criminal defense attorneys. We have Padilla versus Kentucky, which mandates that criminal defense attorneys provide immigration advice to individuals before they take a guilty plea. Providing that advice could make them felons because they now have to inquire as to a person's immigration status. Article 1, Section 13 of the Idaho Constitution is a right to counsel. The Sixth Amendment, 8 U.S.C. 1362, cites that immigrants have a right, although not paid by the U.S., they have a right to pay for their own counsel in immigration court. That essentially would be against the law in this bill. So I have numerous concerns about this bill, and my read of it goes beyond us. I think it applies to victim shelters. DV victims wouldn't be able to house them. I don't think they fall under any of the exceptions. Psychologists, potentially even the prosecuting attorney if they send them for resources. I just think this bill is far-reaching, and it makes a great deal of the bar could instantly be felons immediately with this bill, as well as there's a number of different organizations. And I mean, really quickly, I'm not a miracle worker. I don't bring people to the country. I don't advise them to break the law. I took an oath, not to do that. But I do tell them what their rights are under it. I do tell them what they can do, what they cannot do. Sometimes my job may be a self-surrender to ICE, and our state has never been a sanctuary state. We have always...
I need you to wrap up for time for others. I appreciate your testimony. I do have a question for you.
Yes.
You heard the testimony of the previous attorney. Are you in agreement or disagreement with anything that attorney had to say?
I'm in agreement with a lot of things related to, I think it really affects the bar. I think it affects any type of attorney in the bar right now, because as soon as we ask a question that is an attorney, I'm going to get a bar complaint if I don't know that answer. But if I do know that answer under this bill, I'm a felon.
Thank you. Any further questions? Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Smith, I'm curious, you said you helped with immigration, you're an immigration lawyer.
Yes.
But this bill is dealing with illegal aliens. Can you tell me, is there a difference between an immigrant and an illegal alien?
I think that is a very fine term. So there's different types of immigration. So our immigration practice could be, I deal with artists. I bring them in legally through certain processes. I may deal with visas for workers that come to work in the United States. I may also deal with someone who ICE has grabbed and now they're in deportation proceedings, and I'm going to deportation court. I could also deal with someone who's been in the United States, albeit unlawfully, and they may come to me and say, okay, well, I have this family member and I want to apply for my family member under this process. So now that would be technically an alien who is illegal, who I am now providing immigration advice to follow the law, which I'm helping them stay in the United States under this bill, although I'm doing it legally. There may be other people that I tell, there's nothing I can do for you. If you get picked up, you're going to be deported. And there's nothing that I can do. I can't, I would never advise someone not to go to court, not to report for their court stuff, because I think that would be a violation of my oath as an attorney. And I think as the legislature, you need to trust us as an attorneys that the bar will deal with us if we do not advise people to follow the law. And I think that's what we do. And I think this bill almost demonstrates a mistrust in attorneys, which is why there's so many attorneys here very concerned about it, because this prevents us from doing our job and makes us felons.
Just a quick follow-up.
Follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Smith, I'm still unclear. So is there a difference between an immigrant and an illegal alien?
I think there is a
Ms.
different...
Smith, go through the chairman. It slows things down a little bit.
Okay. I think there is a difference between an illegal alien and an immigrant in a sense, but not entirely. I mean, I think an immigrant could be classified as someone who is here with papers, who has immigrated here. I think an undocumented alien could be classified as someone who is here without papers, although that's a very complex term in immigration land and immigration law. It is a very, very, very complex term, which is why there's so many concerns. I mean, I don't think anybody is opposing that there needs to be common sense immigration laws. In fact, our immigration bar would volunteer to help, establish those in laws that make sense. But this is in violation of every tenet of the Constitution. But I think in answer to your question, yes and no.
Representative Hostetler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Smith. What would you say the percentage of legal immigrants versus illegal aliens in your practice that you deal with?
Ms. Clark, speak through the chairman. You do that by saying Mr. Chairman, and that just
Okay, I'm
slows
sorry.
things down. And
Mr.
Also,
Chair-
you do not have to answer that question if you don't like.
Mr. Chairman, I'm fine with answering that question. I believe that probably, I would say the amount that I make legal or the amount that start without papers, because I bring a lot of individuals in legally. That is part of our job, is to actually bring people in legally. I would say probably that's 50% of our practice is bringing people in legally. There's also a number of people who we make legal. I mean, sometimes people are here and they have legal options, but they don't understand those legal options. I've had people who were here undocumented, who were citizens, but they don't understand the complexities of the citizenship laws for a U.S. citizen born abroad. Immigration law is very complex, which is why it takes years to learn how to do it, and there are numerous pits of malpractice. But I think our job is to either assist people in getting legal or tell them there's nothing we can do. And they either, I have been going around everywhere advising people not to commit crimes, that would be a felony under this, to tell people don't commit a crime because it will put you in front of, that would then be a felony, and I'm not telling them to break the law. I'm telling them not to break the law, but in a sense, I guess that would be advising them to break the law. This makes it very difficult for us as immigration lawyers, where sometimes, like I said, I advise people they're better off to leave, and if they stay out of the country for 10 years, then they might qualify for papers. That could be my advice.
Thank you. Representative Ehart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Smith. If this isn't really my question, but do you by chance have a copy of the legislation in front of you where I might ask a question?
I do.
So I didn't mean to, so Mr. Chairman, so I'm trying to understand in my non-legal mind, I'm thinking on page 1 that I'm assuming that some of your concerns come on page 1, maybe lines 24 through 40-ish. And so as I'm reading it and trying to understand what you're saying, if I go to line 32, where it says to encourage, promote, advertise, coerce, or induce, I'm looking at all those and I'm thinking that probably wouldn't apply to you all. Transport, attempt to transport. I mean, I don't know if you transport, to conspire, transport. Would you just mind, truly, I'm wondering which part of the legislation specifically are the concerns?
So our biggest concern is page 2.
Through the chairman, Ms. Clark.
Oh, sorry,
Right.
dear Mrs. Chairman, I'm sorry. My biggest concern would be page 2, starting number 4, would be provide, promote, or advertise shelter. I feel that would apply to domestic violence shelters. Financial support, that could apply to court services where victims support. Legal assistance to an alien in the state. I think that is a huge concern, because that applies to any lawyer who doesn't check IDs. And for me, it's my entire practice almost, except for the people who I am bringing in from other countries legally, which we deal a lot with artists and, different types of work visas. And then I don't transport anyone, so I think that's,
Mr. Chairman, quick follow-up.
Follow up?
So, Ms. Smith, okay, yes, I accidentally left 4 out. So on provide, promote, or advertise shelter, I don't see the, I could be wrong here, on the advertise shelter. I suppose it would be the legal assistance to an alien in the state. That's the part that would give you and your colleagues probably the biggest consternation then, if you had to just pinpoint where that's the section. Right?
Ms. Chairman, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have others to testify. I appreciate you coming in here with your expert background. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, I'm going to back up on the line. I'm skipping over some of the virtual testifiers because we give prior to those who are in person. I apologize, but that's how it's done. Jacob Rourke, followed by Emily Croston.
Chairman Skog, members of the committee, thank you. My name is Jacob Rourke. I'm an immigration defense lawyer with Ramirez Smith Law in Nampa, Idaho. I want to go through a couple of the constitutional and federal statutory problems with this law. So, as we've discussed, the bill makes providing legal assistance to undocumented individuals, or however you specifically categorize that class of people, criminal. There is federal law on point. It's 8 U.S.C. 1362, and it says explicitly that people in removal proceedings have the right to representation by counsel of their choosing at no expense to the government. So that is in direct conflict with this bill. Federal law in the field of immigration in direct conflict with state law preempts, period. Constitutionally as well, it's an issue. Constitutionally, immigrants have the right to due process under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution. That's been held time and time again for decades. It's very well enshrined in our case law. So it's a constitutional offense as well. Furthermore, that's only as relates to the legal assistance language of the bill. But you'll find the entire bill, from its start to its finish, is illegal and unconstitutional. Because, as the court stated in Arizona v. U.S., that's a 2012 decision from the Supreme Court, the federal government has plenary power in the field of immigration. When they act Mr. Chairman Skog, may I finish my thought?
Go ahead.
When the federal government, Congress, acts to wholly occupy and regulate immigration conduct, even complementary state law is impermissible. That's a quote from the case.
Thank you. Any questions of the testifier? I see none. Thank you for coming in here today. Emily Croston, followed by Christian Well. Introduce yourself, tell us where you're from and who you represent.
Thank you. Chairman Skog, members of the committee, my name is Emily Croston. I'm a staff attorney with the ACLU of Idaho, and I'm testifying against HB 335 on behalf of that organization. This bill is overtly and irredeemably unconstitutional in several ways. I'm going to focus on 4. The first is what's called field preemption. So it violates the Supremacy Clause, as the previous testifier said, because the states have no authority to regulate in immigration where the federal government has exclusive jurisdiction. And that's true even where the state regulation would complement the federal regulatory scheme. Under that case law, that's a U.S. Supreme Court case that's binding on Idaho, this law would be preempted. Second, it violates the Supremacy Clause through what's called conflict preemption, so it conflicts with federal law in several ways. And I'll just say briefly that the federal law that it references, 8 U.S.C. 1324, that federal law criminalizes different kinds of conduct. It provides for different penalties, and it provides for different exemptions. Where you have a different federal law and state law, the federal law preempts the state law, and so the state law would be invalid. Further, the bill violates due process. As folks have already said, folks have a right to an attorney in immigration proceedings, and that would be criminalized here. And further, federal regulations require that immigration judges inform individuals of their right to counsel and where to seek free or low-cost counsel. That's in the Code of Federal Regulations. That sort of conduct would become illegal under Section 418-9002 of this bill. And then finally, the prohibitions on speech, they reach further than the federal statute, and they criminalize speech which is unconnected with an underlying criminal offense, which violates the First Amendment. So we urge the committee to vote no on this plainly unconstitutional bill, and I'll stand for questions.
Good job on the time.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no questions, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right, Christian Welp, who is not an attorney as far as I know, followed by Matt Clifford. Welcome to committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of this committee. My name is Christian Welp, and I represent the Catholic Church in the state of Idaho. And I am here to speak in opposition to House Bill 335. I, like many of you, if not all of you, want a strong southern border. I do not want to see people flooding into our country unchecked or undocumented. I also want to see the, quote, the bad guys involved in drug trafficking, human trafficking, and sex trafficking removed immediately. However, most of the Hispanic folks that are in Idaho do not fall into the category of, quote, these bad guys. These are people that come to the Catholic Church for help with their legal status. They come to us because they trust us. Many of them have been taken advantage of, and they do not trust lawyers. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. And they don't trust other legal organizations to help them. They do trust the Catholic Church. If this bill were to pass, every time someone came to us to begin the process of legalization, we would have to tell them something along the lines of, thank you for coming in. Please wait here while I call the police or whatever authorities. Many of our churches in southern Idaho are filled every Sunday with a large number of Hispanic folks. Every priest in every one of those places knows that many of the people in his congregation are here illegally. Is he supposed to lock the doors at the end of Mass to call the police? Or if a Hispanic couple go to the priest for any kind of counseling, maybe their child is struggling, maybe their marriage is struggling. If the priest knows or finds out during the conversation that they are not documented, is the priest supposed to say, thank you for coming in, please wait here while I call the authorities? Finally, it seems to me, and I'm no lawyer, the federal government is itself in violation of this law. If there is and these immigration attorneys can speak to this far better than I can. However, when a person in this country without immigration papers or is an illegal alien begins to apply for status, for legal status, they are not required by the federal government to leave the country unless they have a criminal record. They are allowed to stay here while their paperwork is being processed.
Hey, Mr.
Thank you again
very
for
good.
your time. Please vote no for House Bill 35, and I stand for questions.
Any questions of Christian Welp? Representative Mathias.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Welp. Mr. Welp, during the bill introduction, we were told that this bill in no way limits the ability of charities to do and continue their ongoing charitable work with these particular individuals. You seem to think that that's not true. Could you walk me through specifically where in the bill you have heartache?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Representative Mathias, thank you. Yes, page 1, line 24. I agree with Representative Hawkins in his introduction. The purpose of this bill, if that's all the purpose of the bill was, I wouldn't be standing up here testifying. However, the verbiage, the language of this bill is different. So line 24, shield from protection, right? Line 27, no, if the organization, and the Catholic Church as an organization, knows, down to line 28, that an alien has come to, has entered, or remains in the United States in violation of the federal law, is in violation of this bill. So if the priest or if the Catholic Church, if the immigration attorneys for the Catholic Church, if they know the person is here illegally and they don't call the authorities, they're in violation of this law. If the priest is counseling someone, not giving them legal help, But right here, they would be shielding from detection. By them coming to the priest knowing that they're here illegally and not calling the authorities, that's shielding from detection. The priest would be in violation of this law. At least that's my understanding.
I have a question, Mr. Welp. So a priest, I'm going to move this a little bit further. If the priest is aware that someone is illegal and in his congregation, and then is asked by the police, is that person illegal, what boundaries would he be crossing, if any, if he told the police that person in his congregation was illegal?
Mr. Chairman, that's a great question, and that would be for a lawyer to answer. I'm not really sure. What I do know is that what ICE has said is that they've got a list of about 650 bad guys in the state of Idaho, quote, bad guys. And that's who they want to go after. There's no plans of raids. There's no plans of, questioning a priest unless that person, the police or the authorities know that person is a criminal, and that priest may be aware of this person or aware of where they are. And in that case, if it's one of these bad guys, as I described, I would think the priest would want that person arrested. But legally, I don't know.
You may not ask questions.
Yeah, I was going to ask that, Mr. Chairman. I didn't know if I could or
You'll
couldn't.
be able to summarize and rebut. Representative Alfieri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Welp,
Yes.
do you think that conceivably this might violate the confidentiality of confessions?
Mr. Chairman, Representative Skog, Representative Alfieri, I purposely left confession out, not wanting to go there, and I used the word counseling if they came for counsel. The priest would, it would be a violation. The priest is never going to tell. If someone were to come to confession, in the midst of that confession, say, I'm confessing my sins, and then says, I'm here illegally, I don't know. Yes, he would be in violation of this law.
All right. Thank you for coming in, Mr.
Thank you.
Wells. And Matt Clifford. We have two other bills to go over, so I'm going to have to cut testimony short pretty soon. When you're ready, Sheriff.
Yep, Mr. Chairman, I'll be sure. My name is Matt Clifford. I'm the Ada County Sheriff. I'm here today representing my office only. The Sheriff's Association hasn't had a chance to meet or vote on this yet. I'm here to ask the H335 be held in committee or sent to the amending order, as the law enforcement exception is as drafted does not include an exception to law enforcement when dealing with victims of crime. The exception, it says exception in there, and we've heard law enforcement exception, but is only to transport, shelter, or move. We need to be able to interact with victims of crime. My patrol deputies routinely interact with people who are unlawfully present but are clearly victims of sex trafficking, physical abuse, assault, theft, etc. In addition, to my patrol deputies, I worry about jail deputies that have to explain legal processes to inmates that maybe are illegals. That is a common occurrence every day in the jail, where inmates come up to a deputy and say, I don't understand how this works. Can you explain it to me? Maybe I see where maybe dispatchers could maybe fall into a problem. So I understand that that's probably not the intent of this bill, and I really agree with the intent of the bill, but limited it to transport, shelter, and movement basically ties our hands as far as helping victims of crime. If you're a victim of domestic battery, we have victim witness coordinators that help walk you through the court process, and all of that would be out the door. So given the problems with the broad language, I just ask that it be held or sent for amendment to address the concerns.
Any questions of the sheriff? Representative Alfieri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sheriff, would you point us to the lines that you're referring to?
Yeah, it is under 189004, kind of towards the bottom. Let me see, line, I think it's 45, under exceptions. So it lists that a law enforcement agency, and basically everyone underneath that law enforcement agency can do these things, and then a first responder in the course of their duties can shelter, transport, or move, but that's all it says.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony and taking time to be here today. Okay, we'll do one remote and then one more testifier, and then we're going to have to cut off testimony. I apologize to the many of you who are here to testify, but we just can't get through it all and get back to the floor on time. Kristen Christensen. Hello, Kristen. Do you hear me?
Hi. Hi, Chairman Skog,
Hi.
members of the committee.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, very well.
Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony in support of House Bill 335. My name is Kristen Christensen, and I represent Heritage Action for America, a national grassroots organization with 2 million conservative activists nationwide, including thousands of Idahoans. House Bill 335 protects Idahoans from organizations that would thwart federal law by harboring those who have not entered the country legally. It also makes it illegal to encourage or induce non-citizens from coming to Idaho, transporting them, or provide financial or other support to them. While the intent to help those in need may seem noble, the practical implications of providing assistance set a troubling precedent. These organizations willfully break federal law and unwittingly help those who often have ill intent. Communities and states that allow these non-governmental organizations to create sanctuaries have seen increased crime associated with human trafficking and drugs. H335 ends the ability for organizations to provide or advertise support for illegal immigrants, and it protects communities by helping enforce federal law and curbs crime that accompanies illegal immigrants into Idaho. Please keep Idaho safe by supporting H35. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. I didn't hear where you're from. Where do you live?
Oh, I'm not in Idaho. I'm the state director for Idaho.
Sorry, say it again.
I'm in Washington.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Actually, we'll have two more. There's one other that really wanted to testify. See if I can bring this person up. There we are. Sherry Randall, can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
We hear
Chairman?
you fine. Introduce yourself, tell us where you're from and who you represent, if anyone. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify. My name is Sherry Rendell, and I am testifying on behalf of the Federation for American Immigration Reform in support of House Bill 335. We're a nonprofit organization. We have over 3,100 members in Idaho. Over the past 4 years, taxpayers have been on the hook for the tune of about $6 billion. The Biden-Harris administration has facilitated the open borders policies by funneling monies through the UN and over 200 non-governmental organizations. NGOs, the non-governmental organizations, have been exploiting their humanitarian missions to profit as well as to incentivize illegal immigration into the states. These NGOs are part of a well-oiled process that begins with the cartels in South America, traverses the Darien Gap into Panama, and then through Central America and Mexico into the United States. Moreover, many of these NGOs are operating on both sides of the U.S. border. They're working with UN agencies and they're at migrant camps providing food, shelters, medication, cash, in addition to directing migrants to the Darien Gap and up to our southern border. Once the individuals cross the border and are processed by Border Patrol, they're released back to the NGOs, some of whom are the exact same working on both sides of the border to shelter, feed, and transport aliens across the United States. even more distressing, some of these migrants may be even unknowingly trafficked. We were at Catholic Charities in Texas, and I had a conversation with some of these individuals who were being sheltered, and they alluded to the fact that they did not personally know the sponsors they were supposed to be placed with. In addition to providing resources to individuals released to them by Border Patrol, NGOs are also knowingly sheltering and transporting individuals who have evaded
You'll need to wrap up now.
detection.
Thank you.
Federal law prohibits harboring, concealing, or transporting aliens who have entered in violation of the law. And since President
Okay, Bob Marabout will be our last one to testify. When you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Bob Narebold, and I do government affairs for Idaho Dairymen Association. And I'm here both for the Idaho Dairymen Association and also, I guess, on a personal basis. As we read the bill, and Representative Hawkins was right, this impacts, in our opinion, the charitable organizations more than businesses. So as businesses, we already go through the format of trying to make sure who we're hiring is legal, albeit that is a flawed system. But it does directly impact the charitable organizations that we help work with some of them we fund in different ways. And so I think when you look at it, you really have to identify what's at stake. Obviously, I'm not a lawyer, and you had plenty of those speak already, sir. But what's at stake really is can we be a little charitable? Can we give a little grace? And I'll stand for questions.
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Narabout.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I understand charity, but I think you were on the record last year talking about your industry with 70% possibly being illegals in your industry. So can you speak to that? Because I think the dairies do provide housing, and you would be in violation of this, I think. So could you speak to that instead of the charity part?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair and Representative Scott. And I recognize that resonated with you because I saw it on some of your social media posts. Absolutely, we have been tried to be honest with committees that we've testified in before, that there's an issue in the immigration system in the United States. So I know we have law enforcement behind me for your other bills, but I could give you my driver's license, and you might not be able to tell if it's legitimate or not. They probably can. We have the same issue when our workforce comes in. They present all the proper paperwork that gives us the authority to hire them, and we hire them. Not until we have ICE audits, and ICE does come around for audits, do we recognize that some of our employees are not here with legally. So when you have an ICE audit, here's the requirement of the employer. You have to let that employee go, or you have to get the right numbers and the right identifications. You know, there's some things that could be wrong, and you got to correct that. And so until that time happened, if we don't let them go, then it's a felony against that employer for having somebody on his operation who's here without legal status. That's a felony, knowingly hiring somebody that's not legal. Until that time, we don't know about their legal status. So if you're letting that employee go, you would no longer provide the housing, et cetera, for them that you were referencing earlier. And most of our dairies, so on H2A, housing is a requirement. Our dairies don't we don't qualify for the H2A visa program. And most of our dairies don't provide housing. Those that do are a distance away from a center like Twin Falls or Jerome County like that. They might be out by Paul or farther out by Raft River, and so then they provide housing for the convenience of their employees.
Quick follow-up.
Follow-up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Nurabout, I appreciate your honesty there. I'm curious, have you pursued this at the federal level to make this legal?
Mr. Chairman and Representative Scott, absolutely yes. I love the question because I've been at the federal level for 18 years working on trying to have them see that basically is for the dairy industry, that we don't qualify for a visa program, open up the H2A door, let us come in that way or let us come in another way. And it's fallen on deaf ears. So if you remember 2019 and 2021, there was a Ag Workforce Modernization Act with Mike Simpson was one of the leaders in that act. That passed bipartisan twice. Republican votes, Democrat votes. It pertained only to agriculture, it didn't pertain to the rest, but it passed twice and didn't get a hearing in the Senate. So let's bring you back to 2013. There was a comprehensive immigration bill that passed the Senate. I think it was a 75-25, somewhere in there, passed with a good margin. And Speaker Boehner refused to give that a hearing on the House side. So those are the politics and dynamics, unlike if you have looked at all at Representative Crane's 297 bill, which would try and provide some ability for the state to take care of its own business. I think if we were working just within the state, could we have success within a couple of years? Absolutely. But the federal government is a totally different entity than the state government.
Thank you.
Representative Hostetler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Nearval. Good to see you again. In relation to this bill and specifically your predicament with hiring and not being able to differentiate until ICE shows up, would E-Verify program help you out with that? And if so, would you be in favor of that?
Chairman Skog, Representative Hostetler, if you go to our policy book, you'll see that we are in favor of E-Verify once we have access to a visa program. If we don't have access to a visa program, then E-Verify, it doesn't assist us at all. And I think we have to recognize, if you go back to the McClure study that was released, I believe, last February, something like 30,000 undocumented workers in the state of Idaho right now today. And with agriculture, that number is about 10,000. With dairy, if 70% of our labor force is here without legal status, that would say 2,800 of the dairy workers are on the dairies without legal status. And I'm going to challenge you that if you can find us workers, you will be a very, very rich man. If you can find people who would pass the system, you could set up a cottage industry where you will be wealthy beyond your belief.
All right, I'm going to stop questions. I don't know that there's any others right now because we have to get on to our other bills.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Scott.
testimony. And for the edification of those of you who are here, there were 10 more people we didn't get to. 9 were against and 1 was for. So with that, Representative Hawkins, if you would keep it within 5 minutes for rebuttal or response.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to point out that one of those that didn't get to testify was a virtual that couldn't get on from the National Immigration Enforcement Center out of D.C. I guess there was no way to get them in. But going over some of this stuff, I'm a little concerned about what I'm hearing. First of all, I know that some numbers came out, I think in 23 or 24, estimating how many people are here not legally. And it was 35,000. Actual numbers are between 45 and 75,000. It's a hard number to track. It's engaged in a lot of different industries and just all over Idaho. The issue with charities or churches, I should say, like I said in the opening, I've never been to a church in my life, and I've been going to church for 42 years, that ever asked me for my immigration status or my legalization papers or anything about that in church. People go to church, sit in chairs or pews, listen to the Word of God, and go home. So I don't find that as an issue here. As far as there was some talk about this whole thing being against federal law or violating the Constitution because the federal government has complete control over immigration. Well, the fact that they do is correct. Nowhere in this bill is it going after immigrants anywhere. There's nothing in this bill that is going after any immigrants or illegal people who are here illegally. It just doesn't do it. But what it does do is go after people who have been harboring these folks and enticing them to come. And like we heard testimony, they are paying for them from the Darien Gap to the border, and then they're stepping on this side and dispersing all over the country. And what I would also point out is I don't think anywhere in here when an attorney seeks to give counsel that they're concealing, harboring, or shielding at any point. Now, I'll admit I don't completely understand the officer's dilemma with the exemption because I thought it exempted officers pretty well. But if there is an issue there, we were unaware of this. And I will just say that, in 2016 and 17, during the Trump administration, there was legislation wrote, it was called Remain in Mexico. That legislation was great legislation. It was challenged by the Supreme Court and then ruled okay. This legislation has the same fingerprints. This wasn't something just dreamed up in the back room. This is done by qualified, intelligent people who know how federal law works. When I first stepped into the room, I did think that the major objection was, how will people just being charitable be affected? But it seems to have grown way past that. And I'm not sure how that works. Like I said in the opening, if you're going to church, you're not having your ID checked. If you're getting counseling, you're not having your ID checked. And as far as somebody in a confessional, if somebody had committed another crime and they went into the confessional and the priest was asked, would that be a violation as well of law? If they had committed a rape or sold drugs, confessed to selling drugs? I mean, we're not doing anything out of the ordinary here. This committee right here promoted a mandatory minimum on the fentanyl drug last year. And we know for a fact that that drug comes across the border at the southern part of our country. And that drug is being packed by people who are being human traffickers, many of them without their choice involved. And all this does is open us up so that we can go after the people perpetrating that crime. And with that.
Thank you. I have a question. Representative Hawkins, I'm looking at the bill after concerns by some of the attorneys here, and it says, it shall be unlawful for an organization in this state to do any of the following, and I skipped down to line 6 on page 2, provide legal assistance. So I'm hearing what they're saying pretty strong. Do you have a response to that?
Line 6, provide, promote, or advertise shelter, financial support, or legal assistance to an alien in this state if the organization knows or recklessly disregards the fact that such an alien is coming in or entering. So I think this is the promotion of entrance to guide. I could be in error there, but I think we read the entire line in context and not just pull out legal advice.
Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Hawkins, did you say you worked with an immigration lawyer from D.C. on this language? That's what I'm trying to understand. Like, I don't think you wrote it. So you've worked with someone.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Scott, I worked closely with somebody who is writing immigration law for our current president and wrote it when he was president before.
Thank you.
Follow up? Representative Mathias.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that we've heard enough testimony to know that there's probably some more questions that need to be asked. I trust all the people who do this work on a day in, day out basis. And personally, I have fundamental concerns about the underlying premise of this bill, which is there are people who are committing misdemeanors by coming into this country without documentation, and therefore we need to create a new crime to prevent organizations and people from helping them. Yet we don't have comparable crime, or we don't have comparable statutes for people who are doing real harm in Idaho right now. Felony domestic batterers who are driving up our female incarceration rate, our homelessness rate. We don't have a comparable statute for people like that. So I have real concerns about what is motivating this bill, and for that reason, I don't think it's worth getting in all of these constitutions.
Do you have a question, Representative Mathias?
I do not. I would like to make a motion that we hold this in committee.
There's a motion to hold in committee. Is there further comment on the motion or questions of the presenter? Representative Joe Alfieri.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative Hawkins. I do have some comments rather than a question, if that's okay, on the motion.
Okay. If there's no further questions, I'll let Representative Hawkins take his seat. Okay, go ahead, Representative Hawkins. Go ahead.
So I too have concerns, not the same concerns that Representative Mathias voiced, but I do have a number of concerns. The first one is on line 1. line 14, I'm sorry, on page 1. Alien means any person not a citizen or national of the United States. I am going to make the assumption that Representative Hawkins means illegal alien, because an alien is anyone from overseas. So if our friends north of the border come down to visit, they're aliens and they're subject to the jurisdiction of this, and I'm concerned about that. I think that's an honest error, but that's one concern I have. I'm also concerned about the exemption of police that the chairman mentioned, and I want to point out that the Catholic confessional is absolute, and that is that nothing said in that confessional may be used outside of that confessional, and I don't think that my friend is aware of that, so I am concerned about this effect and what it does with the Catholic Church. So I will be supporting the motion to hold this bill.
Representative Scott.
I'm going to make a substitute motion to send this bill to general orders, and there we can address some of these concerns, and it gives the sponsor a little bit more time to maybe address some of these concerns, and maybe has time to go through the system, maybe not.
Okay. Any comments or discussion on the substitute motion? We're going to do a roll call vote. A yes vote means to send, I got to look, H2, no, I got to get the right bill number, excuse me. Send H335 to the floor general orders. That would be a yes vote, a no vote is to not. Oh, turn on your mics if you would for the vote.
Chairman Skog,
No.
Vice Chair Alfieri,
Yes.
Representative Scott,
Yes.
Representative Ehart,
Yes.
Representative Erickson,
No.
Representative Garner,
No.
Representative Handy,
No.
Representative Hawkins,
Yes.
Representative Hill,
Yes.
Representative Hostetler,
Yes.
Representative Pohanka,
No.
Representative Schertz,
No.
Representative Gannon, Representative Matthias,
No.
Representative Rubel,
Motion fails 6-9. Now to the original motion to hold House Bill 335 in committee.
Chairman Skog,
Yes.
Vice Chair Alfieri,
Yes.
Representative Scott,
No.
Representative Ehart,
No.
Representative Erickson,
Yes.
Representative Garner,
Yes.
Representative Handy,
Yes.
Representative Hawkins,
No.
Representative Hill,
No.
Representative Hostetler,
No.
Representative Pohanka,
Yes.
Representative Schertz,
Yes.
Representative Gannon,
Yes.
Representative Matthias,
Yes.
Representative Rubel,
Yes.
Motion carries 10-5.